All right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like there's a new content creator. I pre-liked the video already because I like the title. A new content creator entering the scene on the anti-Hoyoverse side, and it's none other than Axe. And I gotta say right off the bat, this is an insane number of views for somebody with about 2.63k subs, and so I'm already on the inclination that this gentleman or woman, whoever they are, not pre-watched at all, they're absolutely fucking spitting. And so with that, this video topic is about how Hoyoverse is becoming too goddamn greedy. And I've talked about this a lot. I've talked about the whole locking quality of life behind payable characters, basically all of the exploration mechanics that are in that land, the whole double banner of Silali and Mavuika, and then saving the Lantern Right pulls until after their banners have disappeared. All of that is being thought of and kept in mind as we head into this vid, and I hope stuff like that is mentioned because it is genuinely, the past year for Genshin Impact has been some of the stupidest and greediest we have ever seen for a game. And so with that, let's go ahead, let's see what this man's talking about and get right on into it.
So I've noticed that recently Hoyoverse has been taking a different approach to the way they handle their monetization, and while it has been brewing for a long time, just recently it has seemed they might be going a little too far with it. So I wanted to make a video about it. This is my first video in this style, so I want to know what you guys think about it.
Honestly, it's considering this is the guy's first video of this style, it's actually one of like the let's just say I've seen a lot of videos in this style and they don't start off as good as this. So already off to a strong one.
Before we start, I need to lay out what type of player I am. I am max level in both Honkai Star and Genshin Impact. I have completed all the endgame. I typically pull just a character and sometimes their weapon. I have a few dupes of some characters, and I have one C6, that being Hu Tao.
He kind of sounds like the average, like, baby whale, big dolphin sort of player. This is like the sweet spot for a lot of gacha companies, right? They get you hooked on a little bit of spending, and then they get you to shell out the big bucks every once in a while. I would say like Giga Dolphin, very small whale in this scenario.
I buy the Welkin and the Battle Pass in both games, but I've recently stopped buying the Battle Pass in Genshin because I just don't really need it anymore.
Based.
I'm not against spending money in any of these games, but over time I felt the want to do so much less unless I really like that character, and watching Hoyoverse get a lot more daring with their monetization over time has made that a lot worse.
Ooh, I thought it was going to start off with Genshin.
I really do think Honkai Star Rail did start out as a generous game. They gave out a lot of pulls on launch, much more than Genshin Impact, and had a lot of people were very happy about that.
True.
In the first few months of the game, you didn't have to pull light cones since they were nothing but stat boosts. The only thing you had to worry about was getting some elemental coverage, which doesn't really matter anymore. You could have fun running your Dill and Fall of an Aeon and still clearing with no issues. And Honkai Star Rail appeared even more generous with the release of Dr. Ratio, who was completely free and didn't require you to pull him at all. He was also the beginning of the famous Genshin can never meme, which in hindsight was kind of stupid, but it was also kind of correct, because to this day, we have never gotten a free limited 5-star in Genshin Impact. Anyways, this generosity seemed to slow down a lot with the release of Penacony and especially Acheron in 2.1. If you were to ask me what character I thought was the most harmful to Honkai Star Rail's game state, Acheron would be my answer 99% of the time.
It's fair to say that Acheron raised the damage ceiling in the game so absurdly high compared to prior releases that they set a standard for what a DPS character should do, and having DPS characters that didn't perform at a similar level to her would make them very dog shit, right? Not a good pull, something that we all know what happened to Jade. That character can go fuck themselves, right? It's just, it invalidated so many people on the roster and set a standard for future releases that the game just really hasn't recovered from at all.
I could honestly probably make a whole video about her impact on the game alone. Not only did she kick off the insane damage bloat, but she also had a very, very broken light cone. Now, if you don't know, Acheron really likes debuffs. Her team needs to get 9 of them so she can launch a very powerful ultimate, the bulk of her damage. Her light cone gives 2 stacks on her ult instead of 1, along with a big damage boost and crit damage. It is probably the single biggest jump between S0 and S1 in the game. The reason I have such an issue with this light cone, as well as a few other light cones, is because it locks her ability to use her kit behind it. If we look at older units, most of them did not do that. They simply gave stat bonuses instead. Look at Jing Yuan's light cone. It gives an insane amount of stats and is a pretty universal option for a lot of erudition characters. I like light cones like that, but Acheron's light cone is game changing. This is very much a situation of creating the problem and selling you the solution.
I was one of the biggest proponents, back before I was a content creator, but when I was just, chatting with people about the state of the game. I was one of the big proponents of people that just said that Acheron's light cone was one of the most player-unfriendly things they've ever released. There's really no free-to-play alternative at all, and there still really isn't one. You either get the debuff and you don't get the damage, or you get the damage and you don't get the debuff application. And she is like one of those characters where the difference between having her premium option and not is absolutely absurd. And there's not like another 5-star light cone that you can pull that you can just slot on her either. It's like hers and nobody else's, and her light cone doesn't work on anybody else either. It's not even like, you like to think of a game like Woo-Wah where the 4-star options are awful and, you feel like you need to pull signature weapons sometimes. You can use those signature weapons in Woo-Wah, right? That you pull for one character and then use it on somebody else, and you can still get decent results. You just can't do that with Acheron, both on the receiving end and the giving end for her light cone. So, great example here that he's pulling up.
If they're going to do this, why don't they just make the weapon banner guaranteed?
Money!
I don't see the issue with that if they want to make light cones borderline required for certain units.
Wouldn't that make the game so much better? You can be like, the light cone banner is guaranteed. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to save up my 160 pulls for this unit. If I win the 50-50, man, I'll just use the rest of those savings and then get the character's light cone. I'm a happy sailor. Hey, I'm having a good ass time. Then you get into the circumstance where you win the 50-50, you shell out a little bit for the LC, and then you lose the 75-25, and you actually just feel like you just wasted so much of your time, so much of your resources, and you feel like the biggest loser in gacha gaming. That's honestly all the 75-25 does. I'd rather it be a 50-50, to be honest.
And I don't think this would lose them money either. If anything, I wouldn't be surprised if it actually increased player spending, because then they would have the security knowing they can get the weapon with no drawbacks. Wuthering Waves already has it and everybody loves it, so I don't really see why they don't do it here.
Money!
Another problem is now they're trying to sell you the character and light cone package and or the entire team comp instead of just the character.
So first you gotta get the character, then you gotta get the LC, then you gotta get the supporting character, and you gotta get their LC too. Oh, and forgot, wait, you have a customized sustain for every team comp, by the way, guys. You got the Adventurino for the follow-up attacks. You got the Ling Sha for the super break, and fuck it, there's probably gonna be a new sustain coming out for all that goddamn memo sprite shenanigans. All of the memo sprite shenanigans. There's probably a new sustain that's coming out for that one too. Just get ready, folks. You get ready.
You wanted to play Break? Well, you need to get Ronmei and Firefly, who are both running at the same time. You wanted to play Follow-Up? Hopefully you have enough for Face Shadow and Robin, because they're both running at the same time or right after each other. Maybe if I wasn't greedy and stupid, it wouldn't be an issue.
This guy knows. This guy knows. He knows the deep lore. He's been cooking this one up for a while. He's pissed. This guy's pissed.
While I am glad the reruns are faster now, it's kind of a bit much. Personally, I would have liked it if we just got the one set of 3 like we did back in 2.5. But when you have 8 characters running in one patch, including 2 new characters, and still not being given enough J's to even guarantee one is, I don't know about that.
But that means that there's going to be more characters rerunning at once, and so the rerun will come back even sooner. It'll be fine, guys. Look, it's okay for 8 characters to run in one patch, because that means they'll cycle through the rest of the roster faster. That's cope. That's copium, ladies and gentlemen.
And not to mention the power creep, where your characters fall to irrelevancy very quickly. This game's generosity is a facade. Think about it like this.
Showblade.
If your game gives out 150 pulls, but you need 150 of them to keep up the end game, then are you really generous? And I feel like recently in 3.0, all of this came around together in one big pile of dog shit. Every character rerunning was meta.
Dude, this guy's fucking based. I just love when there's a creator who's just going to actually speak their mind about the game, and and then they just proceed to say that 3.0 was fucking dog shit. Because it was. I have never seen a drop-off on the release of a major patch like I saw for Honkai Star Rail 3.0. Seeing it go from 31k plus viewers on day 1 down to 7 the very next day was one of the most insane things I've ever witnessed. I have never seen a game act like an established game like this received so fucking badly by the community. It was ridiculous. It was one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen.
Every character rerunning was meta, except for Silverwolf, probably because Hoya fucking hates her. The Herda is another example of blatant power creep, so yay. I'm sure she will require her light cone by the time her rerun comes around. Then we got Aglia. She's a very good character. I even zero cycled with her. Now I can impress my 21.7% female viewer ratio. She wants Sunday.
But that's
That's
pretty good.
understandable. But what I have a problem with is her E1. Her E1 gives her 20 energy on hit, and she wants all the energy she can get. She still works without it, but I hate it when they lock what should have been in their base kit behind Eidolons. What Eidolons and Constellations should be is quality of life features and just damage increases, not removing the bullshit that Hoyoverse puts into their kit on purpose. It once again feels like yet another example of creating the problem and selling the solution.
Hey, it's in Genshin Impact 2, buddy boy. It's in Genshin Impact 2. And honestly, there might be a mechanic like this in ZZZ, to be honest, but maybe ZZZ isn't as predatory as this when it comes to their kit design. I could be wrong, though. I haven't really explored the dupes that much in that game. But Rowsley and Genshin for sure.
Is a lack of viable 4-stars. We have very few 4-stars that are actually...
Wait, but you have Gallagher. You have Gallagher. He's so good. He's like the only one.
Good and used often. Out of the 20 plus 4-stars in the game, I can count the good ones on one hand, and that is a problem when 4-stars make up 34% of the roster. At least in Genshin, you have characters like Bennett and Xingqiu who are still amazing to this day, but there's nothing like that in Star Rail, and I can feel it when there's a grand total of one 4-star I use on a daily basis. And the 4-star problem is amplified even farther when you realize that we only got 2 new banner 4-stars in all of 2024. And we have no new Amphore's 4-star in the drip marketing as of now.
Hey, at least they're both dudes, right? Hey, male wanters, feast your eyes. Hey, don't pull any 5-star units. Just get them off banner. That's who you get, male enjoyers.
And we have no new Amphore's 4-star in the drip marketing as of now. Meaning that the earliest our next 4-star could be is around 5.3, which is around June. That's bad. So now is not only a problem the lack of viable 4-stars, but it's also a problem of not having any new 4-stars. Like, look at this selector. Yeah.
The fact that this was something they released in 2025 is one of the most hilarious things I've ever seen. This is so dog shit, it's insane. Like, Hook? Are you serious? Hook?
Yeah, this shit is so ass. These are just some of the reasons why I kind of don't like pulling for newer characters much anymore, because then I know that if I don't get everything for them and there's no 4-star replacement, then put me in the corner of a hotel room and call me Sneeko because I am getting cucked. But as greedy as Honkai Star Rail is becoming, I don't think it's as bad as Genshin Impact.
Ooh. It gets even worse, ladies and gentlemen. It literally gets worse. Oh boy.
That's right, Genshin, you aren't safe for me. I've noticed ever since the beginning of Natlan, they've been getting pretty bold with their monetization.
Oh yeah.
But that doesn't mean it wasn't there before. There was a weapon banner not having weapon charting. Luckily, we did get it fixed.
Hail, good old Tectone. Hail, Tectone. He saved us. He saved us back in 2021.
And then Hoyo finished the job. Finally took that pity from Infinite. And thanks to Tectone, it went to 270. And then it finally went to 160 or 180, whatever the number is. It only took them 4.5 years to remove it. It still could be better. It still should just... Every weapon banner in every game should just be 100% guaranteed. Every single one. ZZZ, Wuwa has it, Genshin should have it, and HSR should have it. 1,000,000%. They all should just be guaranteed.
Hail Tectone! There's also characters like Hu Tao who really wants her C1. Trust me, I've played C0 and C1, and yeah, C1 does make her a lot easier to play. But as the game aged, things started to change. Throughout Fontaine, we got characters like Risley who really do like a C1.
True.
But Natlan, oh boy. Natlan brought it to a whole new level. They made pretty much every Natlan unit insane for exploration, but only in Natlan. So unless you want to use your Shalone and roller skates for a grand total of 3 seconds, you aren't going anywhere outside of Natlan. But if you do want to use them for exploration outside of Natlan, then you need to shell out another $300 because a lot of the Natlan characters have their Nightsoul usage reduced outside of combat in their C1s, meaning more exploration. They also added the new Nightsoul mechanics on all of the characters. With that, you really want to play Natlan units in order to take full advantage of the Hero of Cinder City set. I won't go into too much detail about all the characters, otherwise this video would be way too long, but there's one character in specific that made this all just feel so much worse. And that character's none other than the Archon of the region herself, Mavuika.
Oh yeah, baby.
I don't...
This has to be one of the most comical frames in existence. You see like these underdeveloped cliff faces and mountains, like this very barren, you know, like very like Sahara safari looking area. And then you just have this bitch on a fucking motorcycle, just like going right through like unpaved roads. Like it's like tough. It's like wild wheat. You would assume it would get like the wheels would get all fucked up with like all of like the plant life and stuff. And it's just... she just doesn't give a shit. I don't even understand how this character got past the drawing board.
I don't like Mavuika's kit. Now, typically Archons will take advantage of the unique mechanics that they bring in their region. Think of Nahida with Dendro or Farina with the HP drain. And Mavuika is no exception to this. But the issue here is that Mavuika is a DPS. She can work as a sub DPS support, but main DPS is where she shines. Meaning that the team is made to support her. Mavuika needs stacks of Fighting Spirit in order to launch her burst nuke, and Fighting Spirit charges faster using Night Soul points. This means that she requires Natlan use in order to fully function properly. She works okay without them, but she heavily wants them. Mavuika is a lot like a shonen protagonist. While she might be kind of strong on her own, when she gets the power of friendship on her side, she becomes unbeatable. This is basically the equivalent of if Farina's buffs only worked on Fontaine characters. I think you can see why that's a problem. Imagine you skipped early Natlan use for Mavuika, and then you find out that she needs them to be at her best. But don't worry, the game is nice to you, you see. They give you a free Kachina to play with your Mavuika.
Hey, that should be enough, right, guys? That should be enough. Hey, Kachina was on the Mavuika banner too, so it's totally fine, right, guys? It's totally good, right? Not.
I can't be the only person who feels like them giving us these bad characters out for free almost feels like an insult at this point.
True.
But if you don't want to play Kachina, and I can't blame you because she's not too good, don't worry, there's another Natlan character that's running on banner too that works perfectly with Mavuika, Sit Lolly. But there is a little problem. Hoyo decided to run both of these brand new characters on the same banner phase. This was the first time in Genshin history this has happened. And to add insult to injury, the Lantern Right rewards were in the second phase, meaning you lost all of those because Dawei needed to buy a 6th yacht.
I'm gonna be honest, guys. Why wasn't there more of like a ruckus? Why didn't you sorry, that's probably the wrong way to put it. Why wasn't there just more of like a public backlash or outcry for whatever the fuck they did on this patch? Because holy shit, I actually expected them to push forward the rewards because I actually thought that there was going to be enough flack from the community and the player base of there would be enough people complaining even in CN about it, and that they would eventually roll the rewards forward and have the 20 pulls available during the Solali and the Mavuika banners. That's what I legitimately thought was going to happen. It never did. And then these guys, these devs, just got away with highway fucking robbery. They actually just got away with highway robbery. They committed a crime right in front of the sheriff, and he just did not care. And they're going to do it again. You know that now because you guys, the player base, right? You guys didn't do anything. They're just going to do it again and again and again. It's like they're playing fucking Winter Soldier out here in Marvel Rivals. You're gonna get milked like cows.
This was one of the scummiest things Hoyoverse
True.
has ever done.
True.
You know, I kind of wanted to pull for Mavuika because she's really fucking hot. But this decision was so bad I couldn't do it. This isn't the...
Hey, at least you're one person that's able to stick by their conviction. We all remember Burenu on Rainu. Yeah, guys, this is such a predatory thing that the Genshin devs are doing. I don't like this. This isn't the right way to go about it. Next day, C6's Mavuika and gets her weapon. The very next day, after calling out what a terrible business practice it is, he proceeds to C6 the character.
The first time I've skipped characters because I don't agree with the price point or the practices, and this won't be the last. I can tell they wanted to milk as much money out of us, and that was just disappointing, to be honest. It's weird because last year, the internet was broken over 3 polls, but then when this happens, I barely saw anybody talking about it.
The Genshin devs just don't care anymore. The Genshin devs have established that a majority of their player base is actually just stupid and will take anything, and they will smile while eating the shit. I think the devs have actually just realized that, and now they're just doing whatever the fuck they want because nothing is happening when they do terrible things. Nothing. No backlash. They have all the fucking CCs under like an iron grip, and nobody is actually making real complaints about it unless they're CCs for a different game. Basically, It's just, if it's a Hoyo affiliated CC, you're never going to see them talk about it, and it's never going to be like public in the Genshin space. You have to rely on non-Genshin or non-Hoyo CCs to actually give you an accurate breakdown on all the dog shit that is happening, and it's ridiculous.
And the greed isn't only on the characters, it's also extending to the enemies too. These new abysses have enemies that want Night Soul to break their shields. This shit was so annoying I had to bust out my benched Arlecchino to hopefully normal attack it until it died. I can probably make a whole video on the shortcomings of Natlin, and their newer approach to the way they monetize their game just made it so much worse. I do like Genshin, but man, these decisions are just getting worse and worse. As for Zenless Zone Zero, I don't really think it has any issues with greed yet. I've lost more gallons to that game than I have dollars, so I'm not really worried.
Miyabi's a bit of an issue, to be honest. I do think she still is an issue. I don't give a fuck if she's a Void Hunter. Who cares if she's a Void Hunter? Does she need to be that strong? Did she need to be that strong, even if she is a Void Hunter? Answer is probably no.
I will say the Wenjins are getting kind of ridiculous.
They've been ridiculous. You want to know why? The release day W engine for fucking Ellen has a special effect where it only increases ice damage. And so ZZZ is another game where the weapon banner should be guaranteed because the fucking W engines have elemental specific effects. Like you see this one over here is talking about fire resistance. If you're not a fire damage dealer, go fuck yourself, is what this W engine is telling you. You get half of the effect, you get this crit damage, otherwise, go fuck yourself. And the fact that these are so tailored, these are even more tailored than the fucking Woo-Wah signatures. And the signatures in Woo-Wah are guaranteed. These are more specific than that, and also on the 75-25. It's crazy, to be honest. It's actually crazy.
And there might be a bigger issue with power creep if we keep going higher than Miyabi, but we're gonna have to wait and see.
Okay, at least he addressed
now,
the
I know
Miyabi.
I received comments about how it's a gacha game, and of course it's greedy, and it's crossing into predatory, and you're right. Gacha games being greedy is about as common as chips and salsa at a Mexican restaurant. Of course companies want to make money, but what's also important is how they do it. From what I've seen, Hoyo tends to skirt a fine line between being just generous enough to keep people somewhat satisfied, but not satisfied enough to the point where they don't want to spend money on it. And while this makes sense, it feels like they've been more on the stingy side of things as of late. If they go too much in a negative direction, while it might benefit them in the short term, I really don't think people stick around it for long term. Except the Hoyo shills, of course. And we've seen clear examples of games that are much more fair with their monetization and respect their players, and they have a very dedicated fan base. Take Wuthering Waves, for example. As much as people want to pit the fandoms against each other, Woo-Wah fans love the game for good reason, myself included. The weapon banner is guaranteed, and the pity is 80 instead of 90.
Oh, guys, we have to invalidate every single thing he said. Brotherman is simply a Kurobot. We're going to disregard every single thing, all of the facts that he was just spitting for the last 11 minutes. Hey, he plays Wuthering Waves. Oh, he played Woo-Wah. He's a Kurobot, and he's talking badly about Hoyo games. Just disregard whatever he's saying. He's just lying. This is misinformation. Everything he said, even the stuff about the Mavuika and the Solali, it's just wrong. He's a Kurobot, guys. Oh, we found out why he made this video.
You can buy dupes in the shop. I can't speak for everyone, but I am
Look at this shill.
much more willing to spend money on that game because I know it's a lot more reasonable. I may sound like a Kurobot for this, but
May? Brotherman, you already are. Guys, I'm telling you, this was not pre-watched. I just knew how this was going to go. I knew how it was going to go. Because this is the meta, right? This is the Hoyo shill meta. If anybody critiques HSR, ZZZ, or Genshin, the meta is to basically, like, fucking pocket watch their entire YouTube channel and be like, well, they play Wuthering Waves. They make Wuthering Waves content. And so, obviously, any critique they have for a Hoyoverse game must be, must have some, like, ulterior motive to it. They're just a Kurobot. We can't take anything they're saying seriously. They're just trying to produce gacha tribalism. Oh, they're just trying to pit the communities against each other. When in reality, the fact of the matter is that every person that makes these critique videos used to play Hoyoverse games, or maybe still even plays them. They play Woo-Wah. And they're just like, oh my gosh, there's so much dog shit in these Hoyo games that I've experienced on a daily basis for the past 3 or 4 years, and none of it is in Wuthering Waves. And Wuthering Waves is just simply objectively a superior game because none of the bullshit that's in the Hoyo games is in Woo-Wah. And when you state that reality, it is so hard for these Hoyo shills to accept. And they just start schizoing out and just give the impression that if anybody plays Wuwa and talks bad about a Hoyo game, they must be like disingenuous about it. And that is how they continue to invalidate every single critique that continues to be made about Genshin or HSR when they're entirely 1000% fucking valid, and if recognized and listened to, would improve the game as a whole. But they vehemently will fight against all of that critique and just label you as a Kurobot and disregard every single thing that you're saying. And that's likely what's going to happen here once the Hoyo shills get wind of this.
I may sound like a Kurobot for this, but if giving a game as Sweet Flowers and Mint is being a Kurobot, then I guess I'm a Kurobot.
True.
I know this video is probably going to be a bit controversial, but I really hope Hoyoverse improves the monetization does better going forward.
True.
I want a guaranteed weapon banner. I want more viable 4-stars. I want to have parts of kits not locked behind Eidolons or light cones.
I mean, it's just such reasonable requests and such reasonable, like, not even like demands. These are just things that would objectively make the game better. And it's not even like encroaching on like the whole like gacha monetization piece. It's just like making the game just feel like less shit. You're still going to have to pull. There's still going to be like an element of RNG. It's just they've leaned so far into the predatory end of the pool that it's made the games just feel like shit. And former players are the ones that know the best how good the games used to feel.
I've seen people say that these games should be void of criticism because it's a gacha game or it's free. This is completely false. This company is worth billions of dollars, and if anything, they should be held to the highest criticism possible. And the thing is, this company is what other games would look towards for a successful gacha game, meaning that all the stupid things that Hoyo puts in their game, case in point, the 50-50 on weapons, could end up in other games by other companies. And as a player, I don't want to have to deal with that in every other game that I play. Luckily, Wuthering Waves significantly improved it, and there are other games out there too with good gachas, and I'm hoping other games in the future do the same. The fact that a very successful gacha game doing what Hoyo couldn't in real time makes it feel so disappointing on Hoyo's end. Will any of this happen? Unlikely.
Nah.
But I love these games and I want them to improve. All I hope is that we see better in the future. Honkai Star announced some changes recently, so maybe we'll see some monetization changes. And as for Genshin, yeah, you guys are cooked. Before you click off, I just want to say thank you for reaching the end of this video. This is my first video like this, so I apologize if it's not the best, but if you guys want more videos like these, then let me know. And any feedback is greatly appreciated. And if you enjoyed, I really appreciate you subscribing. This video took a lot of work, and it really helps me out a lot. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I'm gonna give this video a like and a subscribe. I thought that this was extremely based. And I think that the main thing is, right, he's speaking from a position of relative expertise. He talked about the game states of when the game used to be good, when the game had issues in the past, and how all of these problems are now being amplified further and further with every update that's being made to these games. And I think the fact of the matter is that the games have gotten a lot more predatory. The games have gotten a lot more greedy. And the business practices that we've been seeing across the past 2 years for both HSR and Genshin and, you know, even a little bit of ZZZ too, it's been a little scary. A little scary seeing how much balls Hoyo has to just disrespect their player base at pretty much every single opportunity possible, and how much these Hoyo players are just licking it all up. The Solali and Mavuika banner being one of the most successful ones that Genshin has ever had is going to kill the game, because you know that the devs are just going to be more and more greedy as time goes on. They're going to be exploring the boundaries even more and more, and with the way that the player base has responded, it seems like they're just licking it all up. They're going to accept it with a smile on their face, this basket of shit that the devs are giving you. And honestly, if it works for them, they're going to keep doing it. And there should have been a way bigger, way greater response from CCs, players, everybody involved with the game for 5.3's release. And the fact that there wasn't, and that they went forward with their extremely predatory plans, you guys are cooked. He's right. You guys are all completely cooked. You can just only hope and pray it's not going to happen to HSR and ZZZ too, but it's a troubling sign. So let me know what you all think. Banger vid on my end. Peace out.